Hello, this is Melody Maxwell, and I'm very grateful to be interviewing Dinorah Mendez about Anabaptist for the Baptist World Alliance Heritage and Identity Commission. So welcome and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Melody. I am glad to participate in this project of celebrating Anabaptists.
Yes, could you tell a little more about who you are and what you currently do?
Okay, well, I am Dinorah Mendez from Mexico, and I am Baptist since my childhood. I grew up in a First Baptist Church in my hometown in Durango, Mexico. And then when I graduated, I went to Mexico City to work. And then I studied in the Mexican Baptist Theological Seminary, where I remained as professor of theology for 30 years until 2019. And then I retired. I remained there teaching theology and Baptist history. And then during my time there in the seminary, I also studied the master on divinities in the Baptist Theological Seminary in Southwestern in Fort Worth, Texas. And then I gained my PhD in the Oxford Center for Mission Studies in Oxford, England. During my time in the seminary, I teach Baptist history, and I was very interested in our roots as Baptists. So for that reason, I always remain interested in our history. Then now I live in Durango, in my hometown, and I am director of a very new institute, Biblical Institute, training lay people to serve better in their churches. And also I contribute in different institutes in Mexico, in different parts of Mexico, in short-term courses. And also I supervise PhD students in now seminary in Dallas, Texas, part of the East Baptist, East Texas Baptist University. Is now the B.H. Carroll Seminary, and I will remain a fellow of that seminary, and also will be teaching in the master program in Spanish. That is now my role.
You sound like a very busy woman.
Yes, I retired from the seminary in Mexico City because that city now is very, very chaotic. But now many of the teaching is made online or in hybrid model. No? You can do online, but you can do also in presence or on live model.
Yes. Well, it's wonderful to have someone with your experience and qualifications with us today, and interested in hearing more about your experience with and research about thoughts on Anabaptism for the 500th anniversary. And I think I might first ask, when did you first become aware of Anabaptism anyway?
Well, my very beginning hearing about Anabaptist was during my training in the Mexican Baptist Seminary when I was studying my bachelor on theology in the subject of Baptist history. my professor of Baptist history introduced us on Anabaptist history, and then he was also fan of Anabaptist beginnings in the 16th century, and how these very brave men confront his master Zwingli, and they confront even persecution, and they were persecuted by reformers, and it was very sad that evangelicals or Protestant persecuted by Catholics, they themselves persecute other evangelicals or other Protestants. So for me was very shocking to know about that. So in my very beginning of training about this history, I was fascinated by this group, and also my professor of history was, before be Christian, was an actor. So he was a fascinating professor of history, because he was acting every part of history. So I was fascinated. I never liked history before in my secular studies, but when I study Christian history with him, I get captured by history. So
very
when
good.
when he teaches the subject of Christian history, I was captured by this history, and then I was taught by other professors in the seminary, in the master program. For example, we studied the radical reform, and then we dipped or have a deeper studies on Anabaptists and other radical reformers during 16th century. So that was my first time in the seminary. Mhm.
Well, I'm sure your students are also captivated by your teaching, just as you were captivated by your professor's teaching.
Well, I don't know, but probably because I try to um, to share with enthusiasm about this group.
Yes.
Yes, later I have the opportunity to travel with Dr. Estep. William Estep is an author on Anabaptists of the 16th century, and he was the guide of this tour.
Wow.
About the sites of in Europe of the Reformation, the places of where Luther and Zwingli and everything, but especially the sites where Anabaptists were developed, and was fascinating trip.
Wow.
Mhm.
Well, that's amazing.
Mhm.
You've hinted at this already, but could you tell a little bit more about what you understand by the term Anabaptist? What does it mean anyway?
Okay, well, when I first understood about this group, I understood that the term Anabaptist means to repeat baptism. O sea, to Ana is like a second baptism.
Yes.
And it was used since the very beginning in the first centuries. Some groups practiced the Baptist. Some groups with different names and for different motives practiced the 1 second baptism, but not this group specifically called Anabaptist. Is very disconnected with those different groups with different names who practice to baptism, but or a second Baptist. But this is a different group in different time. But the meaning is a second Baptist, because at that time the Baptist by immersion was unknown, had lost during the Middle Age, and the Catholic Church only baptized infants. And then the Anabaptists recovered the baptism of believers. So for that reason, the people saw that the Anabaptists were baptized, they baptized adults. And then they said, oh, these people are already baptized when they were childs. So they are doing a second baptism. So I don't know if I am being understand.
Yes, that's very clear. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm also interested in finding out more about what attracted you to study Anabaptism or even to teach about Anabaptism.
Oh, well, I was, as I mentioned before, I teach in general history, Christian history in general, but also Baptist history. And then to teach Baptist history, it was always necessary to teach Anabaptist history, because part of our origins or part of our identity as Baptists was found in the connection with Anabaptists. It was not that the Baptists directly came from Anabaptists, but part of our theology as Baptists came in indirectly as from contact with some Anabaptists in Netherlands, in Amsterdam specifically. So to teach the origin of the Baptist denomination, it always was necessary to talk about the start or the beginnings of the Anabaptist groups, different groups, because the fact of the Anabaptists or the radicals in the continent were very persecuted by both Catholics and Protestants or reformers, different reformers. The Anabaptists were different kinds of groups. So not all Anabaptists had contact with the new denomination who was who was starting the new Baptist denomination. So only a few kind of Anabaptists had contact with the new Baptist group in formation, or it was beginning. But some Anabaptists, specifically one group who was practicing the immersion, the Baptist, they were baptizing in the form as immersion capture the attention of the one church in England of Baptists, capture the attention of this Anabaptist group in Amsterdam, because they were already baptizing by immersion. And this group was causing commotion on this group. So for that reason, when you are talking about the beginnings of Baptists, you had to speak about Anabaptists.
Right. And I do so in my classes as well. So it's good to talk about that a little. I wonder if there's a specific aspect of Anabaptism that you have studied, or maybe just that really interests you.
No, I am interested in Anabaptists because the connection with our own identity, because our own beginnings as Baptists. No, very much on to go in much more deep in the doctrines or in the group of Anabaptists. No, not really. When I was studying my master, I had to do a deep study because I had to have a study in a subject on radical reformation. So for that reason, I took that class or that course, and I had to do research and do some some research, some homework on Anabaptists, but not so much on that anymore.
You've talked a bit about how Anabaptists are related to Baptists and to Baptist beginnings. I wonder what contribution has your study and teaching about Anabaptism made to your Baptist identity?
Well, I believe that, I mentioned already the Baptist by immersion. They already recover and they contribute to Baptists to recover to this the form of Baptists. The Baptists already believe in the Baptist of believers, the adult, but the form they continue baptizing by I don't know how the term in English is, but it was like Catholic and Anglicans do by a fusion.
Yes, a fusion, yes.
A fusion. But then one of the contribution, I believe, is theological contribution is the immersion. Another contribution was his belief in the separation between church and state. It was reinforcing belief that already the first Baptists already had, but the Anabaptists already reinforced in the first Baptist. Another thing is the pacifist, the pacifist orientation that the Anabaptists had. That was also, I believe, the Baptists always had as a mark in his history, in their history. So I believe that those are theological contribution of Anabaptists on the Baptist history. And finally, I can remember that the Anabaptists had a kind of congregational kind of election of their pastors. Is something that some Baptist churches right now have lost, I must say. But at the beginning, the pastor are really elected by the congregations. There are not this kind of hierarchy that now is seen in some Baptist churches, sadly. But at the beginning, I think the Anabaptists share with the First Baptist. I don't remember now if there was another, because I think the religious freedom is also another belief that both groups share, because both groups were persecuted. But I think in that case, the Baptists were the pioneers in put behind, put in front, rather than Anabaptists.
That's very helpful, and some very significant beliefs held in common, or one influencing the other. So thank you for sharing that. You've given so much rich information about Anabaptism. So I wonder, for people who want to learn more, if they're not familiar as they would like to be with Anabaptism, what would you recommend as an introductory resource for them to explore?
Well, as an introductory work, I mentioned in Spanish. I think it's already in English, because it's written, or was written, by Dr. William Estep, Anabaptist of 16th century. We had in Spanish, published by the Spanish publishing house, and I suppose he wrote in English first.
Yes.
And then when we have in the master program in the seminary in Mexico, we use a work, a secular book, published by a secular editorial, from the Mexican secular editorial, Fondo de Cultura Económica, is the Radical Reformation. And I think must be in English too. In Spanish is La Reforma Radical, the George William.
Thank you. And can you give the name of the first book in Spanish, the Estep book?
Sorry?
Can you give the name of the first book in Spanish as well? The Estep book?
The Estep book is we have in Spanish.
But what is the Spanish title?
Es Los Anabautistas del siglo XVI.
Thank you. And I believe that's the Anabaptist story in English.
Okay. And the other one is much more deep, and is not only about the Anabaptists. It's about all the radical Reformation. Okay, the rationalist, the millennialist, the mystical, all the spectral radical Reformation.
Yes.
And then is written by this George Williams. And then I suspect that is originally written in English, and it's called the Radical Reformation, I suppose in English. In Spanish, we have it in the title La Reforma Radical. is
Thank you.
much more wider
Yes,
treated.
broader subject matter. Those are very helpful. And if someone actually knows a lot about Anabaptists already, or is at least familiar with Anabaptists, do you have any recommendations for advanced reading? Or was that already advanced reading? Or maybe that was the second recommendation you gave?
Written, writings?
Mm-hmm.
Not really. I have one, I mentioned one writer who is an Anabaptist, is a Mennonita, he lives in Mexico City, but he writes in general terms as Protestant. He don't write respect of his own denomination properly. And I know another is a theologian, a Mennonite theologian of last name is Tepox, but is a theologian, but I don't know his greetings. I suppose he has writing more theologian books or small chapters or something, but I really don't have access, or I didn't look for books or greetings of them.
Sure. Well, it's helpful even to have the names of the scholars as well as
the theologian is Alfredo Tepox.
How do you spell the last name?
It's Tepox.
Thank you very much. And I know those who watch this video will thank you as well. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your experience and more of your story and the Anabaptist story. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.